I got a call from the FAA about one of my YouTube videos. Did it show me busting Class A airspace? Stay tuned for the full story. It all started at the airfield last week. I was assembling my glider to do a couple of short practice flights, just to keep my skills fresh in the off-season. Suddenly my phone rang, and it was the FAA. They said they wanted to talk to me about one of my YouTube videos, and asked to schedule a time to talk the following week. The guy was very polite and casual. He said that someone had reported my video where I was racing a friend on a flight out of Truckee. And I immediately knew that this was going to be about busting Class A airspace. In that video, the 3D animations show me flying above 18,000 feet, which is where Class A airspace begins. It's not legal for gliders to fly in Class A airspace, except under certain special circumstances like a wave window. I know this looks bad, but the altitude shown here is GPS altitude, which is very inaccurate. The instruments in my cockpit show barometric altitude, and according to those instruments, I was flying under 18,000 feet for the entire flight. WeGlide shows the barometric altitude logged by my LXNav computer, and you can see that the highest altitude recorded was around 17,800. I'll put a link to this flight on WeGlide in the description, and it's also linked in the description of the original video. So the FAA finally called, and this time there were 2 inspectors on the call. And again, they were very polite, very cordial and casual. And they explained that someone had reported my YouTube video and they were concerned that I had flown into Class A airspace, meaning I had flown above 18,000 feet. So I explained to them the whole thing about the GPS altitude and the animations, and they seemed to understand that. But then they pointed out that at some point in the video, my altimeter was showing that I was over 18,000 feet. I had been expecting them to bring that up because I knew the altimeter was visible in the video. And I explained that that altimeter is a backup for me. I usually look at the altitude on my glide computer, and I just neglected to set the pressure on that mechanical altimeter before I took off that day. So that was obviously an error on my part, but they understood that and accepted the explanation. Then they said that they were going to treat this call as a counseling session, which I took to mean that they're giving me a warning. And they said if it happens again, they would have to look into it more deeply. At the end of the call, they were almost apologetic. And they were saying that when they get a call, they're obliged to investigate. And then they said, we get a lot of these calls. Some people just like to complain. And so it was almost like they were apologizing for having to call me. I can actually understand why someone would report that video. It did look like I was flying over 18,000 feet, and there's no way that they could have known that my altimeter was not displaying the correct altitude. So I get it. The lesson for me and other YouTubers is be aware of appearances in your videos. If you don't dot all your I's and cross all your T's, somebody's going to report you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.